Wargamer Online, the home of wargaming.
And there we are. I think we are live. Sorry about that, folks. I have literally just got back off a train from London and had to run into the house, switch everything on, and hopefully get the show up. So tonight I am joined by the magnificent dwarven fellow over there, Coleman. Thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you can hear me okay. If someone can just say things are working fine. And I'll tell you what, Ralph, can you give me a 1 2 1 2 just so people can hear you?
I don't think you're going to hear Ralph, but he's in the chat.
Oh, it's been one of those nights. But it's also been one of those days, let's face it, because what we've had is the forging of a new legend. Pretty exciting times for us Fyreslayer players, and for anybody fond of things short and bearded. So I'm pretty excited. Coleman, I think you're pretty excited.
Just a bit.
Just a bit. Just a bit. I've seen the online frenzy that is the excitement around this. What we're going to do is we're going to pull that post up, and I think between us do a little bit of a breakdown, because at first glance things are looking super fiery for our Fyreslayer friends. But what we've seen is what's been added. What we've not really seen yet is what's been taken away. And I think that's, you know, I've been doing some number crunching as I was coming back from the train station. And I think some of the big news is not so big. Some of the other news is pretty balanced. But we'll see, because this is all based on the reaction of what we've seen today. So,
yes.
Yeah,
that's one thing to keep in mind. But I think we both mindful of that.
Time will tell, as they say in these things. Time will tell indeed. Right, let's have a quick look at the chat. I've just noticed my microphone's in the way, so sorry if everybody's just had their ears blasted there as I readjusted my microphone. Ralph is in the chat. Good evening, Ralph. Ralph would have joined us tonight, but he's very, very tired. Yes, and I wish him and his family well, because I know that they've just had a crazy old 24 hours, so hopefully things are settling down there. Moogie Pie is in there saying happy Fyreslayers Day to Phil. Vaughn is in there. Good old Vaughn Killian. How you doing, mate? It's good to see you. So, Phil, is the web service thing working out well? Web service thing. If that's the new website and stuff, yes, it is. It's running absolutely tickety-boo, which is fantastic news. And we've just got a new subscriber as well, Mr. Halska, as well. Thank you for subscribing. I've literally hammered this show together, so I'm amazed any of the notifications are working, because I was clicking buttons right up until the millisecond before I hit the go live. So that's great news. Coleman is in there, which is weird because he's also here. That's freaking me out a little bit. And Ralph is saying good evening all. Al Kirkham has joined us, finally getting back to a live chat after a healed new right knee. Well, Al, you are always welcome. And there's a couple of people out there. I've been trialing some new community tools, and one of them is kind of a group hangout chat, very similar to this format, that can host up to 12 people. So maybe, Al, we can get you along to some more of that at some point as well. I'll be posting links up over the next few weeks as we try some of that tech out as well, which will be good fun. Depimus Maximus, better than a new wrong knee. So that's wishing Al kindness. DJ the Lucky One says hi. Depimus Maximus, not much hobbying this week. Been struggling to get Inquisitor Cotas badly done to look even close to natural. I can't even remember which model that one is, the Inquisitor Cotes, but I think that's one of the older ones, isn't it? And I've probably said that wrong as well, pronunciation. Hopefully Sam's in the chat and he can correct me. Furious George says evening hall. Sam Stock says, yo, oh, fantastic, he is in the chat. I didn't actually know he was. I'd not scrolled down. David 363 is in there saying sup Pete. Well, it'll be interesting to hear what David has got to say on the Fyreslayers as well. And Red Cuffs, of course, reporting in with Howling Madcat in ambush position as well. That's impressive. I can only assume that's some kind of magma ambush. And the one with two-headed cyber cuckoo. Ah, right, I remember that one then. And Judge Gudge is saying evening all. And if you haven't seen what Judge has been posting up lately with his dwarf banner bearer, search the internet, scowl it, find the images of his latest work, because it's absolutely stunning. And Scott as well says hello, Mr. Phil. Good evening, Scott. There you are. I think we're up to speed on the chat. And we are going to dive headfirst into the lava that is the forging of a legend. And Underdog Painting says, evening all, we'll do that as well. Right, okay, here we go. Let's get into the website. I'm going to hope that some of these clicks work, because as I said, I was literally setting this show up 10 seconds ago. Here we are. Warhammer Community. I think it was yesterday we were told that the Battletome was coming on Saturday. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yep, so we knew this was coming. I'm pretty excited about that, because next week I've started my new job now, and next week I'm traveling all week. So I was worried that if I was to get any kind of sneak preview of this, I guaranteed it was going to land in my doorstep while I was away traveling. But the good news is it's actually going to land, hopefully, the great gods of Games Workshop allowing, on my desk earlier than that. And if it does, then I'm going to be very excited, and you will be seeing a review from us, probably with a follow-up live show, and maybe even a live testing of the rules on a battle report as well, a live battle report. I know I was talking to Jack about possibly doing that as well, which would probably be a long show. I mean, that would be like a 3-hour show, but we'd be kind of playing through the game and talking about, you know, learning the Battletome and the rules along with the audience, really. Ah, right. Okay, then. Here we go. Let's dive into Forging of a Legend. Coming soon, Fyreslayers. Okay, what do we know so far from the release? We knew that Magma droths in en masse was a possibility. We knew...
We still don't know what form. We know that from today that there will be an option of taking 5, up to 5. But we still don't know whether they're going to be able to form a unit or whether they're going to be individual models. We still don't know whether I would expect, because obviously if you think the what is the cheapest with Runesmite? Is it 200 points?
Yeah, something like that. 200 points.
So yeah, imagine if you take 5 of them, that's half of the list gone. So that wouldn't make much sense. So hopefully that means that there will be an option of taking Magma droths without any riders and they would be maybe 160, 180 range.
Maybe.
He's hoping.
Ralph, I'm doing an overall introduction at the moment, mate, and you're deep diving already. You...
I'm not Ralph.
Ralph, oh no, Coleman! I was reading Ralph's smiley face as I was talking. This is going to happen a lot of the night, isn't it? Ralph, you behave yourself on the chat. Let me focus on one thing at a time. Before we deep dive into some of these things, what we were aware of, there was a possibility of taking them. We knew that some of the other units would be. It was hinted certainly the half guard were going to have something interesting about them, but I think we knew that these units outside of Volkite Berserkers were going to be playable in some way. And I think today what we've seen is some information on how they've balanced the units in the Battletome to make them interesting in their own right.
Starting from like a general overview, I'd say from what we've seen so far, there's been a lot of players' feedback taken on board.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely.
Which really puts, you know, it bodes well for the rest of the of what they might have in store. But yes, I'm really happy with the direction so far.
Awesome. Me too. Of course, you know, I've got more questions than answers at the moment. What I'm going to do is scroll down this page and briefly cover the headings, and then we will dive back to the top and jump into some of these in detail. So what are we seeing? Updated Fyreslayers. It says inside we're going to see updated war scrolls, we're going to see sub-faction rules, we're going to see lodges, we are going to see additional lore. I love the fact that they describe them as blazing warrior monks. You know, this is new to me in terms of terminology. I've not really thought about them like that. So already I'm starting to see a different slant. Of course, we're seeing magmic invocations, and this is about the Zargrim priests. And you know, we'll jump back to what those invocations are. Yes, we've got the lovely terrain piece, that wasn't new. The usual, I'll say the usual Games Workshop dice now of semi-illegible but highly collectible dice. You know, when Jack uses his Marafi dice, I have no idea what he's rolled. He's fairly confident it generally is a 6. Doomseeker's back in town, and I'm looking at the wrong post. Am I looking at the wrong post?
You are looking at the well, are you mixing them now? Because we had the announcement of no, you're looking at the
I was looking at the wrong post.
Yeah.
There's no getting around it. There's no getting around it, Coleman. I'm looking at the wrong post.
Yeah, you're looking at yesterday's post. Which,
now we're getting some more details. Let's make out as though that was intentional. We're getting some more details. We're starting to learn a little bit about Urgol runes. They're still in there. They're still a mechanic. It looks like most of them are the same, but there's a little change. We've got this all fired up for battle. We're seeing profile changes. We're seeing Berserk Fury change. A slight change to Molten Rock Boats. Again, we're seeing some of the stats around the help me out here, Half-Guard Berserkers. We're seeing some information on prayers, which is the new way to kind of boost units, if you like. We also have artifacts and traits, and 2 fantastic examples of the artifacts and traits, both applied against the Magma droth hero. One, the Rune Father and the Rune Smiter. Information on lodges, including things like the we've got things here, spoils of wars. So some information there, and then finally that final little tease there about the Magma droth horde, if you like, which for all intents and purposes looks like you can take 1 more Magma droth, but that's all we know at this stage. So that's the overview of what we've seen. Let's get into some of the detail, really. Mr. Coleman, I'm going to bring you up out of what's on that page of information. What would you like to pick up on first? I'll give you the steer.
Starting from the top. So first we've got a mention of the runes still being used. As you said, we have the example of the rune of Farsight, which gets on normal effect grants +1 to hit, on enhanced effects grants +1 to wound. Now I'm finding it very interesting, not on its own, but in connection with that snippet of the war scroll for Half-Guard Berserkers. So, looking at the Fire Steel throwing axes on that Half-Guard Berserkers war scroll, we can see that the profile for the throwing axis has changed. It's not 4 up, 4 up anymore. It's 5 up, 5 up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, very, very, very significant nerf. However, going back to the Gold Runes paragraph, we read
that the Rune of Farsight no longer is the extended range. That was the important point. Used to double the range to 16 inches, which always felt a little bit strange. You know, these angry dwarves throwing their tiny axes, you know,
I did like it,
the
though.
Distance. You liked it? I liked it.
I did like it, though, because you could pop up your Volkites from tunneling and actually be in that turn, be in range of shooting. But never mind that. Now they mention, you know, think about softening the target and clearing far-flung foes of objectives. Now, even with +1 to hit, you're not gonna be softening up the opposition or clearing far-flung foes off on 4 up, 5 up, will you?
I think this is the thing. This is the first, if you like, of the Games Workshop, you know, giveth and taketh away. So at first you go, this is great, you know, okay, Runes of Farsight, I actually quite +1 to hit and +1 to wound if you get that enhance effect on the 6. Sounds good, until you actually realise, Actually, that just puts... If you roll a 6, on the one turn that you use the Rune of Farsight, you put your throwing axes back to what they were.
Back to what they were.
So another way of saying, first up, what we've done is reduce the effectiveness of throwing axes for 4 of the turns. And on the 5th turn, it's only back to what they once were as long as you roll a 6. Is another way of saying this.
So, it's either that, or I'm hoping, or we're gonna have different profiles for different units on the throwing axis, because already previously we had them hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, if I remember right, for the heroes, and there were 4 up for everybody else.
Yeah.
Maybe because the half-guard berserkers, by the look of it, are getting a significant buff.
Yeah.
Maybe for them, the axes were, you know, taken down a notch.
I think that being said, by the way, I'm perfectly happy with them being 5 up, 5 up. I never liked a tactic around Fyreslayers where I was reliant on the throwing axes.
No, but
they were about taking a few opportunistic wounds off. But you charge in, you shoot 20 of them, 4 up, 4 up. You're getting 10 to hit. 5 of them are going through, and there's no kind of rend. All they ever were going to do was take 1 or 2 wounds off. I found them quite interesting to use. If you were to, almost charge a character or multi-charge a character and a unit. And then you could direct every throwing axe within kind of, within a distance, or in combat, you could kind of target, the throwing axes that way. They were only ever a bonus for me. I never relied on them too much. They're even less reliable now.
Absolutely. However, if that's the shape of the things to come, I do have a slight gripe with it. Because if you're gonna have a unit of 30 Volkites, for example, if that's still viable, if that's gonna be the running order of running Volkites, and you're gonna be rolling 30 dice hoping to get some 5-ups twice, it's just a waste of time. Just get rid of it. Get rid of it altogether, because out of that, you're gonna score 1 unsaved wound every 5 games.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And there's absolutely no point going through all that. It's having such a small
impact. But I think the point is, Games Workshop, they've released Fyreslayers with throwing axes on their belts. It's been a big part of their narrative. It is their shooting attack. I don't mind it, and I know what you're saying. I think we're going to see less. Losing the bonus ignore wound, which I think that's what we're going to see. I think we'll see less of the super large units anyway. In which case you're probably not picking up big pots of 30 dice anyway, and even then, I'm okay. Like I say, I'm okay with it. I appreciate what you're saying. That becomes a bit of a bind to do very little damage with it.
However, all that said, it's a very small gripe. To be honest,
Oh no, and this is the thing is, I'm actually like I say, I'm actually happy with them going to 5 to 5. 4 up, 4 up for a little throwing axe actually felt a bit too much anyway. I don't mind them being 5 and 5, but I do appreciate your point about you're picking up a lot of dice to probably not do a lot. In which case, speed the game up. But bear in mind, I think they've speeded the Fyreslayer game up in some other ways, like the ignore wound mechanic I strongly expect has gone.
Yeah.
But before we take that one on, let's talk about this. Fyreslayer armies are built around a core of trio of units. This is your Volkite Berserkers, your Auric Halfguard, and your Halfguard Berserkers. And I think this is what you were saying. This is where they've responded to the community now, that these units are going to be, hopefully, viable alongside each other. And I don't even think we need to say hopefully, because we've already seen the 2 attacks on the Halfguard Berserkers pretty much sorts out a lot of what a lot of my biggest concerns for those smaller, heavier units.
And it's not said directly, but I deduct, kind of reading between the lines, that they all will be getting the buff to wound count.
Sorry, say again.
So, because they mentioned, significant boost to their durability, and then they say all core infantry of the Fyreslayers have been given an additional wound, which you could kind of start thinking, what do they mean by core infantry when you've got only 3 to choose from? But looking at the whole of that paragraph, I think it means they will all be getting buffed to.
Yeah. I think we see the reference directly.
Wounds.
Fyreslayer armies are built around a core trio of units. They've described all 3 of those unit types as the core. They later go on to say in the next paragraph, we've applied this to all core infantry. So, well, those are the 3 units they've just described. And of course, and I think the final, if you like, nail in the coffin for the ignore wounds takes us to each Fyreslayer core infantry units also receive some improvements to the core rules in their war scrolls. Volkite Berserkers can now attack even if they are slain, making them great for dealing with your deadliest enemies. So, and then the Berserk Fury rule has now changed to once per battle at the start of the combat phase you can choose to unleash the unit's Berserk Fury. If you do so until the end of that phase, a model from this unit is slain. Before the model is removed from play, that model can make a pile-in move and then attack with all of its melee weapons as if it is armed with.
However, I've got a big question about that now.
Oh, okay, go for it.
So, you see when it says, it says once per battle, okay? But then it says, unleash this unit's Berserk Fury. Does it mean we can use it once per battle per each unit of Volkites?
My understanding of that, and hopefully it's correct, it says the core rules on their war scrolls. So if it's a war scroll, the war scroll is referring at a unit level. It's not an army ability. So, that's what it reads like. It says this unit. So, yeah, I think that's great. You haven't got to decide on turn 2, this is the turn. You can say, this unit's not...
to do it,
Yeah, you can make the decision. This unit's not going to be around next turn. And I think we are going to see units die quickly without the 4-up, 4-up ignore. Even the 2 wounds counter it, I get that. But the point I was making to Jack is when you get multiple damage weapons, you only have 1 save now. If you had something that did 3 damage, you made 1 armor save and you failed, then you made 3 4-up ignores of those. Now you make 1 save and you fail. That's 1.5 models gone. Saying that, interestingly enough, if you follow that mechanic through, I think it's probably not going to have as huge an impact, because if you had a 4-up ignore on, say, 4 wounds, you're going to take 2 wounds. Whereas if you have just an armor save against a 4 damage weapon and you fail, guess what? You're removing 2 models. The net result is the same. The speed of the game is quicker. One caveat: what's happened to mortal wounds? Because obviously, that was the big thing, And the fact that 4-up ignore was, against mortal wounds and unrendable, for want of a better word, unless you reduce the unit size down. So, go for it.
That immediately, caught my eye as basically a nerve to, as far as Volkites are concerned. Yes, they will be going down quicker. I'm pretty sure.
But the good news is, when they're going down quicker, you can say, well, this is the turn I'm going to put them into Berserk Fury. I'm going to lose a lot in this turn, so let's play this. And this is the interesting thing, once per battle at the start of the combat phase. This isn't something you need to activate in your hero phase. This isn't something you can only activate in your phase. This could be that all-important second turn where your opponent, for instance, has scored the double turn. So you move into second turn, they've scored the double turn, and you're just going to go, right, I'm probably going to Berserk Fury across everything here, because I want to make sure I do damage back,
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, it seems like things are going in the right direction. So there are things that, on a paper, take things back a bit. But at the same time, let's remember, it's the first day of the reveal. We just get little snippets of information, And already from what we got today, it looks like for everything that's been taken away, there's something to balance it out in a different way. There might be, yeah, you know, taking a little bit away from, taking something away from the Vulkites, but giving a bit more to the half guards and the Auric half guards.
Yep.
It might be balanced out across the army, not within the same unit. But yes, I still think this is a very promising looking start.
I am perfectly sanguine about this change because, from my point of view, I've got 2,500 points of Fyreslayers painted. I'm about to jump that up to about 3,500 points of painted Fyreslayers, because for those of you who have been looking at the forum on Wargamer Online, you will have seen me posting up the images of currently 7 Magma droths in production, 6 actually in production because 1 was complete. So I'm about to boost to about 3,500 points, and that's before endless spells and all the rest get added to it. So I'm super excited because for all intents and purposes I've got an entirely new army for a set of models I've already got painted. That's what it feels like. They're going to play completely differently, which is brilliant. I love the idea. That was the
point. That was the point, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what we all wanted.
We needed them to start playing differently.
Okay, Auric Halfguard, on the other hand, are even better than slaying monsters than before, gaining a nifty damage bonus combined with a nasty penalty to move. The penalty to move, forgive me if I'm right, I think it's changed. Was it a 5-up and it's now a 4-up?
It was, yeah, it was 5-up, it's 4-up.
Which is big. That's big, because I've only ever had that go off once in all of my Fyreslayer games. Once.
Yeah.
You just cannot hit that 5 and 6 when you need it.
So, I agree. I agree. It's again small change on paper, but it's going to be visible on the table.
Yeah. On top of that, as if that wasn't enough, Coleman, and I would have been happy with that, to be honest, we can add 1 to the damage characteristics for attacks made by magnified missile weapons against target of monsters. Yes. Yes, the Magma Pipe model. I actually love the Magma Pipe model. Pike model. It's a great model. I love that little sort of flaming cannons. I love them.
I love them.
I've only got 10 of them. I think you trump me on this, don't you? How many of these bad boys have you got?
I think I've got 25.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's move on to Halfguard Berserkers. They've been given an additional attacks, significantly increasing their offensive power, making them a superb unit with which to hammer your foes. Here we go. What's it about? Well, this is where we're seeing the.
Wait a minute, Phil.
What?
I think I've noticed something else.
Yeah.
Were they not 1-inch range before?
Yes, they were.
They are now 2-inch.
You know what? I'm going to double check that, but we'll double check that. I'll break things, move that, open this machine up, and we'll double check that while we're here, because that's lazy of me not to check. It was my opinion that they had become 2-inch range, and previously they were 1-inch range. 2-inch range when you are a 32mm base.
This is huge. Massive. This is massive. Now suddenly your second line gets to attack.
Third? No, second. Possibly some squeezed jiggery pokery on the third.
And getting 2 attacks. I'm hoping they're at least gonna stay at the same points as they were, because by the look of it, they might be going up.
I think you're asking a lot there, Coleman, but we'll see. 2 attacks, 3s to hits, 3s to wound, -1 rend on the broadaxe. You know why I'm excited about this? I've just completed a unit of 10 broadaxes, because up until now I only had 10 magma pikes and 10 flame strikes.
Do you know? I do have 10 broadaxes, and against something that's got 5-up save, they are absolutely devastating.
Oh yeah. I mean, what's the damage on these things? Damage 2. And that's what finally converted me to the broadaxes again. And actually, it was me seeking. Excuse me for having my back to the microphone. I'll be there shortly. Sorry about this. That was me seeking to try and be able to justify fielding something different. I don't even
Yeah.
have to think about it now. You know,
Yeah.
that's the best thing. Here we go. Half-guard Berserkers were indeed 1-inch range, and somebody on the chat has probably already said that. So they were 1-inch range. Interestingly enough as well, the Flame Strike Poleaxe was also 4 to wound. And now, of course, what you've got is 1 damage but 3 to wound as well.
Yes,
so.
of course, because he was 3 up for the basically 3 up for the mortal wounds, but then he was 4 up to wound on the normal damage.
It was a weird old mechanic because you rolled this 3 to hit, then you rolled another dice, and any 3+ was a mortal wound, and then you rolled another dice, and any 4 up was then an actual wound. So you had to make 3 rolls for that attack, and I always felt that it would have been simpler just to say, 3 to wound, and for every dice you roll, every hit you make also scores a mortal wound. An additional mortal wound, and you would have only had to make 1 roll then. But
well, obviously we've not seen the rest of that war scroll yet, so
of course, and that may well have changed. I won't be surprised if it's had some form of tweak, particularly with them changing the to wound stat.
But yeah, again, you said I might be asking much, but let's not forget, they come in units of 5. When you consider them as unit of 10, that's 200 points for 10. That's not cheap. That's not cheap.
We'll see as well. We'll see what happens to their points. Don't forget that we can't be far off of General's Handbook, and if we're not far off of General's Handbook, we'll probably see, points reflective of almost a post-General Handbook points review across the board, because I can't see them releasing a Battletome at this stage and then seeing a points adjustment afterwards, other than the usual cycle of reviews, if you like. Okay, before we go on, we're halfway through the show. I want to catch up on the chat because there's a few comments in there, so let's just catch up in there. Underdog Painting says, evening guys, hope everyone is well. Dave Ellis' Fyreslayers updates look solid so far. Pretty sure throwing axes got nerfed from before, but the new rune helps them. Loving what they've shown so far though. Well, we've covered that, so that's great news, and I think that was an old chat anyway. I wonder where Phil buys all these backwards t-shirts from, says Furious George. I don't know how to reverse this camera, mate. This is the best you're gonna get tonight. Alright? I literally walked in the house 2 minutes before the show. I'm doing my best. I know somebody pointed out my backwards t-shirt last week.
That's why you need symmetric t-shirts.
Eat, sleep, war game, mate. That's what it's all about. Look, yes. This t-shirt's amazing, and I forgot where I got it from, so I feel sorry for the makers of them, but they are really nice t-shirts. Liam says hi. Oh, Liam. Good old Liam. And I think I'm catching up with you shortly. Furious George says hi, Liam. Frost and Fist signing in, wishing everyone that they're beautiful people. And Thordalim says, evening all. David Ellis says, as beautiful as the terrain piece is, it does look like a Fyreslayer themed pizza oven. I'm well aware of the pizza oven gag. You know what? I'm just going to stick a pizza in it. Because why not? Why not?
There have been some call-outs for a crazy golf as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Imagine. Phil, imagine AOS theme Pete crazy golf.
Oh, you shouldn't have said that out loud, because that's going to be a thing now, and we could have done that. We could have done that, Coleman. I'm sure there's a movie about somebody that makes a crazy golf thing. Is it Castaway or something like that, or Overboard? There you go. Anyway, let's not digress any more than we need to. Frost and Fist. Now we need a dwarf whose axe is a giant crescent shape, like those pizza cutters that they rock backwards and forth to cut the pie. Giving away his nationality there, describing a pizza as a pie, confusing at the best for us Brits, but thanks. David says, my unit of 30 5+ save direwolves will argue that 2 wounds is plenty of defense. Oh, David, how can you pull such a sob story? Because we all know what your arm is like. And Furious George says, hey Phil, how's the body going post-op? How am I doing post-op? Pretty good, actually. Pretty good. I managed to get on my bike for the first time in 2.5 years on Sunday. And what a grueling experience that was. But it was good to be pushing the pedals around again. So one day I might get to race fitness again, which is a day long way away from here. But, maybe one day I'll be riding the bike again. Right, okay, Let's move on to Zargrim's blessings. Every Fyreslayer? Every Fyreslayer army using this new Battletome is going to want to include at least one Rune Smiter or a Rune Master, thanks to the blessings. This is a table of prayers available to any priest, offering them a range of powerful abilities that can augment your unit or confound those of your enemies. Grimnar's Fury is particularly cool, allowing you to drive your chosen hero to greater heights of glory by letting them stick it in the enemy once more. So here have we got, this is the Prayer of Grimnir's Fury. A red rage fills the heart of those blessed with this furious benediction. Basically, it works. Start a hero phase. One friendly model that knows this prayer can chant it. This is very much Daughters of Cain. If they do so, you make a prayer roll on the dice. On a 1 or 2, it's not answered. On a 3, the prayer is answered. If this prayer is answered, pick a friendly hero that is not mounted on a Magma droth. Boo. And is within 3 inches of an enemy. Boo. And within 12 inches of the priest. Boo. It's all good, but, you know, I just like to see bigger bubbles. Make a pile-in move with that hero, and then attack with all of the melee weapons that hero is armed with. That's pretty nice. You know, especially if you've got some nutter like the Grimwrath Berserker,
yes.
who's got some kind of mechanic to follow that up.
Asterisk, Grimwrath Berserker's War Scroll as we know it today.
Of course, of course.
But
Yeah.
in that little, you know, in that snapshot of time that we have right now, when the old War Scroll for Grimwrath Berserker still exists, and this rule is been introduced, is just like a bullet of fury.
Well, it'd be kind of good because, you know, if you miss that chance to kind of activate his ability, can you then, well, you already done a prayer actually in the hero phase, so actually, no, ignore me. Ignore me. It doesn't take place in the combat phase, this, so that's important to note.
Still, yeah, yeah, I mean, if he's within the range and he's still alive, that is just like...
Yeah, yeah, you know, and our
it's
dwarves...
poetry. It's
you know,
poetry.
our dwarves aren't the fastest things on the, you know, so even giving that hero an extra 3 inch to maneuver himself round the base of a large hero, you know, into the bubble of something for combat phase, you know, there's lots of, you know, little bits of trickery you could pull with that one, couldn't you? Say you've got a character that just can't make it but can make one side of Nagash's base with some kind of boost, then it just might give you that as well, ignoring the fact you get the extra attacks. Okay, another incredible option is the Prayer of Ash, which is perfect for sheltering a shield wall of Berserkers or a particularly vulnerable Runefather on Magma droth. At the start of the hero phase, one friendly model that knows this prayer can chant it. Again, this is actually different. It's harder to get off, so this is on a 1 to 3, it's not answered. And on a 4 up, it's answered.
4 up, yeah.
I think its difficulty is reflected in its range, because now you can prick a unit wholly within 18 inches of the priest. Add 1 to the save rolls for attacks that target the unit until the next hero phase. On Magma droths,
the wonderful thing about it is that
yep.
it's both shooting and combat.
Good point. Good point. I at the moment using it on Magma droths is a mixed emotion for me, because I want to see what happens to the Magma droth save before I go any further with judgment on that. Yeah. If you know, the Magma droths move from a 4 up save to the 3 up save, then that's nuts. Just to give that, you know, there's a 50% chance of moving your Magma droth to a, you know, your Runefather to a 2 up save would be amazing, and not unlike a lot of armies out there that can move their big heroes to a 2 up save. I'm thinking the Tree Lord Ancient, for instance, which can spend its entire game on a 2 up save with the right artifact.
I played a game on last Friday, where I had one of those old woods on the table on 2 up save, and all the shenanigans accounted, I was -2 to hit him. and I was playing the carrot run.
Yeah. Ouch.
I gave up the game after the end of round 2.
Oh, bless you. Oh, bless you, Colin. Should never give a game up though. Sometimes you can swing it just in that 5th turn. Battletome Fyreslayers give you more choice when customizing your favourite heroes than ever before. The book contains 2 tables of command traits, 4 tables of artifacts, and even a set of mount traits for the Magma droth. Yes! These can be used to create some awesome combos. For example, we've got 2 combo examples here. The Auric Runefather with Blood of the Berserker, Drakeslayer, and the Flamescale Youngblood mount trait makes for an explosive combat with a potential to deal a devastating number of mortal wounds. I think the emphasis here is on potential.
Potential, yeah. It's
we'll come back to the potential, shall we?
Snake oil sellers sales pitch.
Blood of the Berserker. Once per battle in the combat phase, after the general has fought in that phase for the first time, if they're within 3 inches of an enemy unit, they can immediately make a power main move, and they can attack with all of their weapons they are armed with for a second time. That's it's a once per battle. I'm always a little bit dubious about once per battles, you know.
And
never sits with me too well.
We've had that already. I can't remember what it was, whether it was a trait or an artifact, but we've had that already.
Yeah, and I've just remembered why my camera is so bad. It's because I've got half my lights turned off. Hey, I'm here, everyone. Okay. Drakeslayer, once per battle. In your shooting phase, instead of making an attack with a beard, with the bearers of fire steel throwing axe, you can say they're throwing the Drakeslayer. If you do so, pick an enemy monster within 8 inches of the bearer and roll a dice. On a 6, that model suffers 3d6 mortal wounds.
There will be people out there so desperate to see it happen, and they're gonna take that anticipation with them to the grave.
Can you see that? Can you see that ever happening at a tournament game, though? You know,
I think you will have to be an extremely enthusiastic individual to actually go for it.
Yeah, I mean, just remember that apparently we've got 4 tables of artifacts. So are you really going to pick the Drakeslayer? It's one of those things. It's absolutely fantastic if it goes off, but you don't generally play tournament on that's amazing in the 1 in 7 games.
You go for reliability and consistency.
Yeah. Because don't forget, this is once per battle. It'd be great if it could only happen once per battle, so you could have as many shots as possible to make it happen. In other words, it might go off once per game. But even then, you know, 3d6 mortal wounds. It'd be amazing. I love the fact of this little Fyreslayer's axe just going straight through Nagash's head and out the other side. You know, it's like
yeah, and then rolling 3 1s.
Oh, I know.
Would you? That's I don't let's not go there. Just move on.
Let's move on.
The
Flamescale Youngblood. So this is an impetuous Magma droth. You know, for those of you who are not familiar with the Magma droth lore, essentially Magma droths, you pretty much capture them and they tame them and they grow up together. But saying that, every now and then the Magma droth dries, so you've got to take on a Youngblood, and like the Rune Sons and the Rune Father, when they're young, they're hotter, they're angrier, and as they grow older, they cool down a little bit. So this is to reflect that, really. So we've got this Youngblood Flamescale. After this model has made a charge move, pick 1 enemy unit within 1 inch of this model. Roll the number of dice equal to the charge roll for that charge move. Each 6, that enemy suffers 1 mortal wound. So, you know, your average charge roll is going to be what? A 7, an 8? You know, you'll do 1 mortal wound. Yeah.
Again, a bit of a trap, really.
Yeah. I'm not sure, you know, it says it. I'm not sure any of those things. Okay, the pile in and attack again. I'm not sure it turns it into the explosive combatant that they're selling us. But saying that, you know, there are people out there that are pretty lucky with their dice roll, and in a narrative play, what a story it would be to tell when your Runefather piled on in there and smashed the hell out of someone. dealing out 18 mortal wounds because you rolled a 6 followed by 3 6s. And in that charge where you went 12 inches, you managed to roll 4 mortal wounds on top of that as well, or something like that. Who knows?
I mean, you know, if you had it go off at any point ever, it's and if you ever have great grandchildren, they will hear the story.
How about Coleman, the Rune Smiter with Ash Beard, a Droth helm, and an Ashhorn ancient mount trait. This makes a perfect leader for the spearhead of crushing magma droths. Ooh, just say crushing magma droths again. Ash Beard. This general knows. Sorry, go on.
This is useful, yeah. Go on. Sorry.
Yeah. We knows 2 prayers from Zargrim's blessing table instead of 1. I like that.
See?
That's good. That's solid.
That's solid.
Yeah, and you know, because you're going to be able to. Okay, so some of the, I think we've seen some of the blessings. Are they once per battle? I'm not sure they are, actually, are they? No, of course they're not. So this is just in the hero phase. So
yeah,
getting 2 of those off every time. I can see the Ashbeard getting used quite a lot. Droth helm. This is an ancient helm worn by the first Zargrim priest to ever tame a magma droth. You can re-roll hit rolls for attacks made with claws and horns by friendly magma droth within 6 inches of the bearer. Very, very nice.
Especially if you've got a Rune Smiter on the magma droth.
You know,
so he's always going to be within range.
Yeah. You know, and let's just what's really cool about that. I can see myself now with that extra option of taking a 5th magma droth, which we'll come on to shortly. I can see myself taking a Rune Father and then 2 units, and not that they'd be classed as units, but 2 units of a Rune Smiter and a Rune Sun side by side. In which case, you know, if you were to give this to, say, one of those units, that's 6-inch bubble. Or if you were to support your Rune Father with a Magma Droth either side, a little cohort of 3, you know, re-rolling hits for claws and horns. Those claws and horns, unless they've significantly changed, that was the only decent attack you had with Magma Droths, you know.
And also, it's not just one; it's all of them. So, if you run them together, if you imagine if you can get 3 re-rolling hits, yes, that's getting.
That'll do.
Sweet.
That'll do.
That's getting
Ashhorn Ancient. Well, let's just keep stacking this up then. So we've got not only re-rolling hits for claws and horns. With the Ashhorn Ancient, you can re-roll saves of 1 for attacks that target this model. Attacks, young Coleman. So this is shooting and
combat.
And if hope beyond hope, these things have moved to a 3-up save.
And again,
hope beyond save. 3-up re-rolling ones is pretty awesome.
If they're still on 4, that's not as impactful.
You know,
but if they're on 3, re-rolling ones, suddenly a big change.
Re-rolling ones is always an interesting one for me because it's one of those things. If I've got a 4-up save and I have to make 40 of them, and I've got re-rolling ones, I guarantee I'll roll 1 out of that, and I'll roll 32s. You know.
Well,
it's the way it goes. Lodgers. One of the most exciting changes to Fyreslayers is the addition of Lodgers. These represent sub-factions of Fyreslayers from the background. Famed for particular tactics, serving to reward some of the more unusual list building choices chosen at army creation stage. Each lodge as an ability. Let's get into this. They can have a command ability, a warlord trait, and an artifact of power. The Greyfired are able to take additional artifacts, and heroes can attack simultaneously. Nice. Maximum valor. We recommend using a cluster of artifact armed Grimwrath Berserkers. Get out of town.
That's obscene.
You can choose 2 additional heroes from your army to have artifacts of power. Come on. I want to see that artifacts of power list because you just want to see something that turns that Grimwrath into some insane dude.
Yeah. So basically we're getting skyboards for Fyreslayers. We're getting the great Endrin works for Magma Droths. That is exciting. That is exciting.
It's good stuff. Expert cohesion. So you can use this command ability in the combat phase when a friendly grey-fired hero is picked to fight. The other friendly grey-fired heroes that are not mounted on Magma Droth, are within 3 inches of a hero, can fight immediately afterwards. So this is all your heroes going off before your opponent gets the option to pick a unit to fight. I've got no notification on this page, but thank you for subscribing, whoever that was. Apologies for the notification not popping up. That's my bad. As I said, I was setting the show up last minute, so I apologise. But needless to say, before your opponent gets the option to pick a unit to fight, any models that does so cannot fight again in the combat phase. Fair enough, you're just getting to the front of the queue, you're not getting another go, unless an ability or spell allows them to fight once more. Fight more than once. Yeah. Which is good. Which is why Grimwrath Berserkers. Interesting.
It's all hanging on those war scrolls, new war scrolls now, isn't it? So first, whether and if how much the war scroll for Grimwrath Berserkers is going to change.
Yep.
And secondly, we know, obviously, it's been officially announced that the Doomseeker is getting back incorporated properly into the army. Yeah. And he wasn't a bad hero to start with, not as good as Grimwrath at the same cost point, but still, he was a very, very decent fighting hero in his own right. If he gets a little bit of, just a tiny little bit of more love there, then we potentially might have two very powerful fighting heroes, which with the expert cohesion activated.
Yep. You know what? I've got one of those models. I hear you've got more. How many of those bad boys have you got?
Oh, I think I've got 2 or 3 Doomseekers, and I think I've got 3 Grimwrath Berserkers.
Right, give me the background on the Doomseeker. How did you get hold of a Doomseeker? What were they in? Because I've got one. I can't remember.
They were in Silver Tower.
Ah, right. Okay, there you go. So excellent. Right, Lofnir, on the other hand, are a Fyreslayer Lodge from Gur. I love Gur as a name. As befits warriors from the realm of beast, the Fyreslayers of Lofnir are famed for their Magma Droths. This is represented in-game by a rule that allows them to take more Magma Droths than other armies, as well as allowing you to take a Magma Droth trait for each. So let's just go through this. Each Magma Droth in a Lofnir army, instead of only one, can be given a Magma Droth trait. So you can layer up the Magma Droth traits, which is what we were talking about earlier of stacking the traits. Overlapping 6-inch bubbles. Really, really interesting. But you've got to be inside this the Venerators of Volcatrix. In addition, if you are fighting pitch battle, you can include 1 additional behemoth in your army, as long as every behemoth in your army is indeed a Magma Droth. So that puts the count up to 5.
5.
I'm good with that. You good with that?
I'm good with that.
Well, I think it's fair.
You are 2 over. I'm 1 over. I think we can cope with the
as I said earlier, Coleman. It just gives me options, mate. I've got options. Of the 7, I've just got to decide which 2 I'm not taking. Oh dear me!
I got the 6 delivered to.
Oh, for heaven's sakes! Right, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. We are almost at the end of the show. For those of you who are wondering what the hell is Phil on about when he talked about the Wargamer Online forum, let's just have a quick look at this. So, if you've not been over to the forum, I've got to do some clicking. Keep filling. There you go. This is the forum on Wargamer Online. It's open to anybody who registers with a free account. You can post up there. There's a whole bunch of stuff going off there. The wonderful Moogie Pie putting up road to the road to Warhammer TV free people. But my latest post on there at the moment is getting my hordes of Magma Droths ready for the new Battletomes. And as you can see, there's a whole bunch of images on there showing my work in progress for my Magma Droths. Some interesting stuff going off. I'm just going to zoom in on one of the images here for you. As you can see, I've been diligently 3D printing my lava bases, my little rock formation crystallite lava bases. Working pretty hard. That base there, I think you can see my mouse pointer. That base and that base is actually the very same base that had simply rotated 180. And then for those of you who are familiar with the Magma droth, there's very little in terms of posing that can be done. So what I've done is use you know, a hot knife to change the angle of the feet, which has allowed me to lift the front of one Magma droth and lower the front of another Magma droth. And what I believe I've achieved is some quite different dynamic posing for them. So I'm pretty happy over here. So these are for Rune Sons, the yellow ones. Hot, fiery, angry, very young Magma droths. I've got
the Egma droths.
Egma droths, and I've got some. Oh, thanks, Coleman. Just ruined it. I've got some blue mystical magic Magma droths for my rune smiters. So as you can see, this is still work in progress. I'm just layering the colors up and those kind of things, but I'm getting there. There's I've been using inks to get some of the high contrast on them, so they are a bit glossy. I acknowledge that, but I will be matting these down once I'm happy with the contrast I've achieved on them. And I think if I just close this down and go back to the post, because I think, there you go, there is, how can I do this? If I go backwards through this, I think it will show you. You can see me basically working on little bits of tires, holding them up as I'm trying to create that pose and work out the height the bases need to be. Here's my Rune Father in the center here. I've got 2 Rune Sons with the Wormslayer javelins, of which I've made a custom little howdah. I wanted to try and create as much difference on this kit as possible. So I've created these little double-sided howdahs where the Rune Son hops from one side to the other, throws the spear off the side, picks up his next spear from the rack and throws away. We've got the Rune Sons here with their axes, and again I've been kind of sculpting some bigger axes, and then there's not a lot you can do with the smiters, or not a lot I was interested in doing with the smiters, because I am working on a custom smiter. And there's my Rune Father in the center there, who's the most complete. Here's a close-up of the howdah I've been working on, and the idea is they've got a little chain that attaches to their waist belt, so they hop from side to side and throw the spear off the side. I like the idea that these guys almost intentionally keep back from combat. But they've got a couple of, you know, throwing axes hanging around off their waist and stuff they can whack people with, which is all good. There you can see, never happy with this little axe in the corner here is meant to be their ancestral war axe. I was never happy with that as a model, so I've sculpted some larger ancestral war axes, not as big as the latchkey grand axe that the Rune Father holds, but sculpting away. This guy's swinging one over his shoulder as his Magma droth bends down for him to whack someone on the head. I love the fact that Magma droth is obliging. So, you know, get me closer to the ground. And bending over. Oh, there you can see him leaning down with his big grand axe. Again, early progress shots. You can see what I was doing there. But there's that's the money shot, as they say. There's my 7 Magma droths. They'll soon be finished, which is great news. The bases have all been sculpted, as I showed in the later session. So that's it. You will be seeing those on BAT reports fairly shortly, hopefully, which makes me very, very happy. Right, let's have one last look at the chat, catch up with Coleman, say goodnight to everyone, and let's call it a night. Wow. I'm not seeing much in the way of people shouting out at Wargamer Online, so it's probably a bunch of internal chat. I get pasted with my iron jaw, says David Ellis. I need some wish fulfillment on winning games, so Nagash-based GT army it is. Oh, bless. I'd love to see your Iron Jaws army, but don't Iron Jaws just need some love? Next time you go to doubles, bring Drake Slayer, and you'll have your partner bring Kairos Fate Weaver to guarantee the roll. That is an interesting point. Does that work across those? I'm not sure that's right. Right, okay, some Al Kirkman at Coleman. That means I can tell my 2 great granddaughters that story. He's pushing the old ancient boat out there, isn't he? Amit's coming in saying hello, putting the O in WG. And I think that's basically it. Speaking of Warhammer TV, keeping your eyes peeled for my 2nd and 3rd appearances, 3rd of May for 40k and 22nd of May for Age of Sigmar. Amit saying looking great, although 7 Magma droths is still excessive. It's only excessive by 2. Filling it. Oh, dear me. Amit's off. I'm just not going to go there. DJ the Lucky One says good night. Everybody's saying good night. Frost and Fist says great show. Let's call it a night. Coleman, thank you very much for joining me tonight. Last minute. If I turn this way, am I looking at you? I think I am. So it was great for you to join me. Great to talk beard nonsense. But I think it's time for me to just take a breath, calm down, go to bed, and get back on the early train to London tomorrow morning. Vaughan is painting his store Raven good ships. Right, good night, folks. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed that. I'm not sure, you know, if we see some crazy news on Fyreslayers in the week, we might just do a 30-minute show just for the fun of it, just to keep up with the news. Certainly, if Coleman's available, it's a possibility.
Yeah,
that's it. So we'll see. Let's see what news comes out. If we get news on Magma drops, we're going to be all over YouTube. Like a Christmas ad at Christmas. Good night, all. See you later.